Look, I'm fine with the 25 games. I think it's appropriate. You were hearing rumblings about a year or half a season. I thought that would have been excessive. The Players Association just released, a statement saying they think the 25 games is excessive, which is interesting because Ja was released a statement as you showed saying he's going to take these 25 games and make himself a better man. Mm-hmm. Look, he is in a position where he's got to prove it. We've talked about this all season long with basketball, with the Sixers, with the Nuggets.
Yep.
Ja has already apologized once
That's
and then backtracked and done the same thing. He has to prove to us that he has learned his lesson. There's nothing he can really do in this offseason during this suspension that's going to make us say, oh, okay, he's learned his lesson. We thought that before. I thought when we were watching him in the playoffs that, okay, he put that behind him, he's going to be fine. Obviously, that wasn't the case. I would like to see a few things like not drinking, guzzling alcohol on social media. Obviously not playing with guns on social media or period. All right, he doesn't need a gun. You can have bodyguards if he feels like he's in danger, whatever. But I think that, what I want and you guys know I've said this from day one. I'm concerned with him using language like, even going back to the first incident, I'm stressed. I'm feeling pressure. I got to learn how to deal with this. His statement today, I'm going to work on my mental health. So take this time to get yourself right mentally, get your life in order, and then come back. Look, America, as I said yesterday, loves a comeback story.
Sure.
He can do everything he wants to do in his career still, but you have to learn from this. And last thing to T. Morant, I would like to see T give off more vibes of a father, an authority figure, versus one of his partners. Okay, so
sure.
I'd like to see that at games too.
We got the NBA Player Association released this statement minutes ago, right before we went on the air. I understand, listen, I come from, my dad was the president of a firefighters union for 30 years, so I understand unions' job is under essentially all circumstances, defend, their personnel. So I get why they would do it. You said right before we started, and I don't know if you want to expand on it before I give my full thoughts, the timing of this does feel weird as far as Ja releasing a statement saying, I take accountability, and then the union coming in. It seems like they might not be on the same page here, and so that was noteworthy to me. I didn't know if you want to talk about it before I get into thoughts on this.
No, I just felt like I hope Ja has a full team around him that is ready to move forward. We haven't heard any public reports on what he's been doing to get himself right, and it doesn't feel like this is the starting line. It's like we knew that there was going to be something coming down the pipe, so this statement probably was drafted a long time ago, but I hope he's already taken those steps to work on his mental health.
So I think the number of games sounds right. Listen, Miles Bridges, they called it a 30-game suspension for what, allegedly was truly awful domestic violence. So I said when this first happened, I was like, it can't be north of that.
That's right.
I know different suspensions, different things. It would just feel awful and look terrible, but it's got to be substantially more than 8. So I felt somewhere in this range is where it was going to fall. To me, what matters is two very distinct questions. One is for Ja, his well-being, his future on and off the court. Does he change his behavior? I do not think the punishment is going to be the determining factor of whether he changes his behavior. I think whether he got 5 games, 25 games, or 55 games, that was going to be almost agnostic to whether or not he changes his behavior. That's got to be a personal choice because he didn't change the behavior after the first incident cost him arguably $40 million by him not being on the All-NBA team. The other one from a Grizzlies perspective is this. How will they look those 25 games without him? And if he has no incidents, but they know because they know him, he hasn't fully changed his behavior, will they consider moving on from him? Because over the last 2 years, they have been actually a tick better, certainly as good with or without him. And if over those 25 games, Brew, if they're 16-9 and they're like, you know what, we can do better. We have Ja Morant as a trade asset gives us more value than Ja Morant on the court with Bane, with Triple J, I think that's noteworthy. So I know Ja's rooting for them to do well.
Yeah.
I don't know for his future in Memphis, and I don't know if it's good for him to stay in Memphis, if it's good if they do very well, because they've done very well without him in the past.
Their record is fine. They couldn't win the championship without him. Now, to your point, it's not like you just remove Ja.
Exactly.
You
That's
bring
my point.
somebody
You bring in someone who you hope can be the
you
number
would think
one.
you bring in a star.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, obviously, this stuff could hurt his trade value. If people get wind of the Grizzlies feel like he hadn't really improved and changed his lifestyle and stuff, that could hurt his trade value. But I don't think – you talked about the record being better without him. I don't think they would have a hope of winning a championship without him. Now they have a hope of winning a championship. Even if the regular season record isn't as good, he's just a superstar you need.
Of course, but if you trade him for a different superstar that fills in the number one, that's what I'm...
that makes sense.
Which is, I think, very on the board. But I think the most important thing, and this is the point, Wildes, you have made from the very beginning, the basketball stuff, honestly, in this circumstance, is secondary to, is he okay?
Yeah.
And what is, I don't want to play psychologist here, what is the root cause of this, and why is it manifesting itself the way it has?
Look, quickly, it is not that much of a behavioral change to not play with guns.
Of course.
I mean, like...
I agree, but like what is making him do that? I agree with you, Brew, but...
If my kids were doing this, it wouldn't be, I would just be like, look, what are y'all doing? Are you crazy? Parent them. That's what I would do. And that's what I did, and they're successful. Don't play with guns. That's rule number one.
That's rule number one?
Good parenting.
Okay. Brew is the Rock of Gibraltar on this. He is not going to be moved.
Well, best player?
No, on anything, all things Jordan.
No.
You're not moving. Okay, well then.
I mean,
I don't think Jordan is. I don't think Brew is movable.
I don't think he's Muhammad Ali.
I think Wildes
if you're talking about off the court
partially
legacy,
movable, but I'm really talking to the. I'm talking to America here because I think the audience, even Jordan acolytes, will say to themselves, "Let's kind of make some good points." My entire life, when we have talked about Michael Jordan, the greatest player ever, part of the story has been, and the shoes, and made the bald head cool, and the marketing, and the Jumpman logo. It's not the biggest part, but it has been part of the story.
Sure.
Also, yes, because
what are you sure
wait, hold on,
have
bro.
I ever?
Wait, I'm not talking about your case.
Mystique.
The mystique of Jordan, that even if someone ends up being better, they won't have all of these things, is what I've been told. Furthermore, I would posit this: if Michael Jordan's run as an owner was dynastic, if it was awesome, if Jordan went from on the court to in the front office and they reeled off championships, everybody watching knows. People would be like, see, look at him. That's one of the reasons he's the GOAT. No, everything he touches turns to gold. So when his run as owner, can we show the full screen, please? On the court, basketball-wise, he's the worst in the league for 15 years. It's got to count a little. It's got to be a little bit of the tapestry. Or we have to take all the other stuff away. And we're saying we're not talking about shoes or iconography or any of the stuff.
Stop it.
What?
Have you ever, when we've debated about Jordan,
Bro,
have I ever brought up shoes?
You haven't. But you're not the only person who argues it.
I'm the best at arguing it, though. I'm the one that wins. But no, look, nobody would say in their right mind that Michael Jordan has the best legacy in basketball, on or off the court. All that's off the court. LeBron's legacy off the court is much better in terms of social justice. Jordan, got roasted in the black community for not speaking out on social issues. Now, I think he's done some great things since then. One of the second black majority owner in the NBA from Bob Johnson. Just as you said, sold for $3 billion. I mean, unbelievable. Now he's going to be right up there close to Oprah, as wealthiest African-American in the country. So I think he's done some things that are important for African-Americans off the court since he's retired. But Nick, when I say Jordan's the GOAT, it is not, his legacy in all of basketball, talent evaluation, executive.
Yeah.
It is as a player.
Sure.
Period. And now, I do agree, like I would say Jordan's iconic.
Yeah.
And that's where the shoes and all that comes in. But this has nothing, to the opposite of your argument is saying Jerry West, awesome front office executive. Yeah, he was a great player, won a championship, was a finals MVP when they lost. And then you look at what he did in the front office, drafted Kobe. He's the GOAT.
It helped.
I mean, that would be like saying.
But it helps. And
no,
you know
it
what?
doesn't really.
The late great Elgin Baylor,
we're talking
his
about
Clippers tenure hurt him. Yeah, we're talking about basketball. And he picked the players.
Wildes, if you buckle.
I'm not buckling. It was a decent argument, but no.
Thank you.
America, the next
doesn't even
time,
need to be
I'm
addressed.
talking to America, not you guys. The next time you're in a Jordan debate and someone's like, oh, but LeBron's shoes will never be like Jordan's, bring up the ownership tenure. They're on the same plane and people bring those things up. You might not, Brew, but people do it. I'm just telling you, they do it, and you know it. See, there you go. See,
I
the
like
shoes
LeBron.
are
I got some
fresher.
LeBrons
Better.
too. I got several LeBrons. I like LeBron.
There you go. Exactly. That's fine. And that's part of your guys' silly
That's part of
Jordan
his
stuff.
mystique.
Exactly.
Because he's great.
Exactly. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.